Hey everybody, it's Dave, Dugdale, learningvideo.com. So I'm going to give you my top 3 things that I saw at NAB this year. Number 1 is, I didn't really get to see it, but was Sony's new color science. I mean, they had monitors showing the old FS5 versus the new FS5 Mark II, which is hard to tell. I mean, is that done by a colorist or was that the actual camera? I mean, what picture profile was it? There was a lot of information that wasn't there. So what I'm going to try to do is this summer when the FS5 Mark II comes in, I'll get it in for review and take a look at it. So basically what I was trying to find out was this new color science that was developed for the very expensive full frame Venice camera that cost, I don't know, 30, 50 grand or whatever. And it's being passed down to the much less expensive FS5 Mark II. Was that going to be then passed down to the new Sony A7S Mark III? One of the guys said yes. That new color science will appear in the A7S Mark III. And I was like, you want to go on the record with that? I mean, you know, I'm going to blog about this. And he was like, yeah, that's what's going to happen. I was like, that's very cool. So that was one of the biggest things, because Sony cameras, just the skin tones, they're not quite there. I mean, they look okay, but they're just not as pleasing as something like the, the Canon colors, for me anyway. So if they can make a new color mode and you can apply it to S-Log or something, that would be a big win. I would really, really like that. All right, before we move on to number 2, I want to pay the bills really quickly and talk about my new course, the Sony A7R Mark III. I've been working on it for the last 10, 12 weeks. It's a bit over 5 hours long. So if you're wanting to elevate your game in terms of shooting video with that camera, it's a beginner level course. Definitely check out the link below for pricing, and it's available right now as of this recording of this video. All right, next up I want to talk about the second item that caught my eye at NAB 2018, and that would definitely be the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, which I'm sure by now, since I'm late to putting this video out about NAB, you've already probably watched a ton of them. I'm not going to cover a lot of specs on this camera, but the thing that interests me the most, is the price, $1,300. I mean, that's pretty much about the same price as this A6500. And I could see a lot of people maybe going away from the A6500 or selling this one and getting this Blackmagic camera. Now, they fixed a lot of things on this newer camera, like battery life. The previous camera had like 20 minutes and you'd set up the shot and all of a sudden your battery's dead. And you're like, gotta get a new battery. Or, it didn't have that great of low light performance. Now with the dual ISO, I'm just assuming that you'll be able to shoot in much lower light situations, which those are the 2 major reasons why I never really owned that camera. I mean, I used it for 30 days and I loved it, but I just couldn't get around those 2 items. And now with these new things like being able to shoot 4K 60, it kind of puts itself up there with the GH5 and the GH5S. Now, I haven't used the camera yet, and I'm just guessing the 2 things that are really going to bum me out about the camera. One, it has no EVF. So if I'm out in broad daylight, it's really bright, and I'm trying to hold it up to my eye and have an eye cup, I won't be able to. I'll have to look at the very large screen, but no EVF. And that'll be a big bummer for me when I'm using it outside. And the second thing is just taking pictures with it. Unfortunately, I think my guess is it takes around a 9 megapixel picture, which will be kind of depressing after, having a camera that shoots either 24 megapixels or the A7R Mark III that shoots 42 megapixels. And the final thing is DaVinci Resolve 15, which has Fusion built into it. And for me, this will be a great learning experience because what they've done is they've created titles, like animated titles. I think they can be 3D for a whole bunch. I was looking at their demonstrations there in their booth, but basically you could just drag one of those down onto the timeline, and then if you want to explore more about it or learn from how they built it, you just click over to the Fusion tab and you're like, oh, I understand how they're merging or how they're maybe taking a blur and changing the blur over time, or it's different things like that. So for me, that's going to be a fantastic learning tool using Fusion within DaVinci Resolve. And I gotta say, the pace at which they're developing Resolve is just non-stop, because that last update they did, Resolve 14 at NAB last year, I thought that one was huge because they'd skipped 13. They went from 12.5 to 14 because they had so much new stuff built in it, and it was a big performance boost using the NLE on a PC. It just went through the roof. But this one, adding Fusion, just like, wow, that's pretty amazing how fast those guys are working. So that's pretty much it. I just got a email from my rep at B&H just as I was talking that the new A7 III is coming in for review. So I'll be looking at that camera next. So that's pretty much it. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.